What invisible force wiped out over 90% of entire civilizations, altered the temperature of the Earth, and quietly edited the DNA inside your body right now? Long before weapons of mass destruction, microscopic killers pushed the human species to the absolute edge of extinction. Empires fell in months. Whole cities turned into silent graveyards. Entire continents were altered forever. This is the story of the 5 deadliest plagues in human history and the terrifying biological mechanisms that nearly erased us from the planet. Our journey begins with an empire that believed it was untouchable. In the year 165 Anno Domini, the Roman Empire was at the absolute peak of its power and wealth. Its legions were invincible, its borders secure, and its trade routes spanned the known world. Then, Roman troops returning from military campaigns in the Near East brought back a hidden passenger. It began as a high fever, throat inflammation, and a hideous skin rash that erupted into dark pustules. Modern epidemiologists suspect it was a deadly early strain of either measles or smallpox, known today as the Antonine Plague. Within weeks, the disease ripped through the military camps and flooded the crowded streets of Rome. At its height, up to 2,000 Romans were dying every single day. The plague wiped out an estimated 10% of the entire empire. Farms were abandoned, tax revenues collapsed, and the Roman military lost so many veteran soldiers that it could no longer defend its northern borders against invading tribes. Rome survived. But for the invisible enemy, the story was only beginning. 4 centuries later, it returned to challenge the Roman world once again. In the year 541 Anno Domini, Emperor Justinian I ruled the Byzantine Empire from Constantinople. He was on the verge of reuniting the eastern and western halves of the Roman world, building massive cathedrals and restoring Roman glory. Without warning, grain ships arriving at the capitals, ports carried a microscopic parasite hiding inside rat fleas, a bacterium named Yersinia pestis. This was the first recorded appearance of the bubonic plague. The pathogen invaded the lymphatic system of its victims, causing painful, black, golf ball-sized swellings called buboes in the groin, armpits, and neck. In Constantinople, the death toll spiraled completely out of control. 5,000 to 10,000 people died daily. Corpses piled up in the streets because there was no time or space left to bury them. Towers were stripped of their roofs, stuffed to the brim with decaying bodies, and sealed shut. Emperor Justinian himself contracted the plague. His groin swelled with agonizing buboes as his court waited for him to die. Against all odds, Justinian survived. But the empire he built was permanently shattered, stripped of its workforce, its army, and its economic power. Yet while Justinian recovered, the killer bacterium did not disappear. It retreated into wild rodent populations in Central Asia, lying dormant for 800 years, mutating into a force that would break the medieval world. By the middle of the 14th century, the Mongol Empire had unified vast trade networks stretching across Eurasia along the Silk Road. Goods, silk, and spices moved faster than ever before. The same roads that carried prosperity would soon carry one of history's deadliest killers. By 1346, Yersinia pestis re-emerged with terrifying virulence, sweeping westward toward the Black Sea. For centuries, popular history blamed rats for spreading the Black Death. But modern epidemiological modeling and ancient DNA research reveal a much darker reality. While infected rat fleas started the outbreak, human body lice and human fleas carried the disease from person to person at catastrophic speed through crowded, unwashed towns. The turning point of this medieval nightmare took place at the coastal fortress of Caffa on the Crimean Peninsula. A Genoese trading post at Caffa was placed under a brutal siege by a Mongol army led by Antonine Plague. As the siege dragged on, the Black Death struck the Mongol encampment, felling thousands of soldiers in days. Realizing his army was doomed, Antonine Plague made a fateful decision that changed human history. He ordered the plague-infected corpses of his fallen soldiers loaded onto giant catapults. The decaying bodies were launched over the stone walls of Caffa, crashing into the crowded streets inside. This stands as one of the earliest documented instances of biological warfare in human history. Terrified and infected, Genoese merchants fled Caffa on galleys, sailing straight for Italy. When the ships arrived in European ports, most of the crew members were already dead or dying at the oars. The Black Death exploded across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. It killed with staggering speed. A person could wake up perfectly healthy in the morning and be dead in their bed by nightfall. In desperation, the city-state of Venice created a radical defense system. They ordered all incoming ships to anchor offshore for 40 days to prove they carried no disease before offloading cargo. They called this 40-day period Quaranta Giornith, origin of our modern word quarantine. It was not enough. Between 1346 and 1353, the Black Death wiped out 30 to 60% of the entire population of Europe. Up to 200 million people perished globally. Whole villages vanished from maps. The shortage of labor was so severe that surviving peasants demanded higher wages and freedom, tearing down the centuries-old system of feudalism. Yet, as horrific as the Black Death was for Europe, the worst demographic disaster in human history occurred when European survivors set sail across the Atlantic Ocean. For thousands of years, the indigenous peoples of the Americas lived in geographic isolation from Afro-Eurasia. While Europeans had spent centuries living alongside livestock coexisting with smallpox, measles, and influenza, native populations of the Americas had zero exposure and zero adaptive immunity. That isolation had protected them for millennia. The moment it ended, everything changed. In the 1520s, European explorers and conquistadors arrived in the New World, carrying the variola major virus, the agent of smallpox. Smallpox was a complex DNA virus that attacked skin cells, organs, and mucosal surfaces, causing excruciating skin eruptions and organ failure. It spread like wildfire across the Americas, far outpacing the physical movement of European soldiers. It tore through the Aztec Empire, paralyzed the Inca civilization, and depopulated entire river basins in North and South America. Over the course of a single century, smallpox and introduced diseases killed an estimated 80 to 90% of the indigenous population between 20 and 56 million human beings. 4 centuries passed. Humanity had survived one of history's greatest biological catastrophes. But the next pandemic would overturn everything doctors thought they understood about who was most likely to die. In 1918, during the final months of World War I, a new influenza virus emerged. It was an avian origin H1N1 subtype strain that spread rapidly through military camps, troop ships, and muddy trenches. Normal seasonal flu strains pose the highest risk to the very young and the elderly. But the 1918 virus had a sinister mechanism. It triggered what modern medicine calls a cytokine storm, a severe hyperreaction of the body's own immune system. When a young, healthy person with a robust immune system contracted the 1918 flu, their body overreacted. Immune cells flooded the lungs with fluid and tissue, causing the victim to suffocate from the inside out within hours. Healthy 20 to 40-year-old adults died in massive numbers. Because of wartime censorship, major powers like Britain, France, Germany, and the United States suppressed news of the outbreak to maintain public morale. Only neutral Spain freely reported the devastating deaths in its newspapers. This press openness created the false, enduring illusion that the pandemic originated in Spain, giving it the inaccurate nickname, the Spanish flu. In just 2 years, the 1918 flu infected on a third of the global population and killed between 20 and 50 million people, more deaths than World War I itself. Massive casualty figures tell a terrifying story, but the raw death counts hide the most mind-bending reality of all. Modern scientific tools show that these ancient pandemics did not just kill millions of individuals, they physically altered the planet and left permanent marks in your personal biological code. Consider the climate twist. When smallpox devastated the Americas in the 16th century, tens of millions of indigenous farmers died in a short period. Millions of hectares of cultivated farmland were abandoned instantly. Without humans clearing the land, wild trees and forests rapidly grew back over old fields. This massive surge of plant growth absorbed immense amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Researchers discovered that this sudden drop in global atmospheric carbon was so dramatic that it contributed to a worldwide cooling event around the year 1610, known to climatologists as the Little Ice Age. The death of civilizations literally cooled the entire planet Earth. Now consider the genetic twist hidden in your own body. In recent years, geneticists extracted ancient DNA from the dental pulp of skeletons buried in medieval plague cemeteries, such as East Smithfield in London. By comparing the DNA of people who died before the Black Death to those who survived it, scientists discovered a dramatic evolutionary shift. Survivors passed down a mutated version of a specific immune gene known as the ERAP2 gene. If a medieval human carried two protective copies of this mutated gene, their chances of surviving the Black Death increased by 40%. The disease acted as a brutal filter of human genetics, favoring those who possessed this immune shield. Because the survivors lived to reproduce, that protective gene variant became far more common in modern human populations. However, evolution always demands a trade-off. That exact same ERAP2 gene mutation that kept your medieval ancestors alive against Yersinia pestis overactivates the modern immune system. Today, carrying that same ancient genetic shield significantly increases your risk of developing autoimmune disorders, including Crohn's disease. The very code that saved humanity 700 years ago is causing chronic illness in millions of people living today. How did the human species survive 5 separate apocalyptic events that destroyed civilizations and rewrote the landscape? The surprising truth is that humanity did not survive through medical breakthroughs or advanced science. For almost all of human history, medical understanding was practically non-existent. Medieval plague doctors wore iconic birdbeak masks stuffed with camphor, dried toad skin, and aromatic herbs because they believed disease was caused by miasmabad smells in the air. Their treatments, like bloodletting and applying hot irons to infected buboes, often killed patients faster than the plague itself. Humanity survived through sheer biological resilience, natural genetic variation, geographic isolation bottlenecks, and trial and error public health enforcement. Because human populations were genetically diverse, a small percentage of individuals carried natural resistance to every pathogen. And because global travel was slow, diseases often burned themselves out locally before they could consume every last human settlement on Earth. Look closely at our world today. We live in dense cities connected by high-speed air transit that can carry a pathogen to any major metropolis on Earth in less than 24 hours. In many ways, our modern civilization has recreated the exact crowded, hyper-connected conditions that allowed ancient microbes to flourish on an unprecedented scale. The 5 deadliest plagues in history prove a sobering truth: humanity did not conquer the microbial world. We merely signed a temporary armistice. And deep inside your own DNA, the battle scars of those ancient wars are waiting for the next conflict to begin. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments which pandemic you think had the greatest impact on human history.